What minor injustice was wrought upon you as a child that you're still salty about today? When I was 4, I had a little red rocking horse necklace. It was my favorite. I wore it to a puppet show my dad took me to one day and took it off and put it beside me. The kid next to me picked it up and wouldn't give it back. We fought. My dad told her dad he didn't recognize the necklace and let her take it. I'm 45 and still salty. We had a special arts and crafts week when I was about 6, maybe younger. I made my dad a Christmas stocking out of clay. Because I'd always thought it was unjust that he didn't have one. It was going to be my Christmas presents to him. I took it to the teacher to show her, and so it could be fired later. She methodically destroyed it by balling it up in her hands, and then tried to put it down to a brain fart. I was shocked. But mostly I wanted a replacement stocking, since it was meant to be a gift. I asked her to remake it for me, since she, a teacher, would be allowed to use the clay anytime, but I only had a few minutes left. The next day I was told I'd been bad and I wasn't allowed to participate in the arts and crafts week anymore, and that was that. When I was in a relationship, my friend said, "Stay true to yourself," basically meaning don't let the feeling of love and lust blind you from the truth. Not saying that didn't happen. I definitely got caught up in it, but looking back now it was fantastic advice. If someone shows you who they are, believe them. Maya Angelou. In other words, don't ignore red flags, don't make excuses for them. Don't justify their actions. If they show you they're a bad person, then they're a bad person. It's more important to do right than to be right. While it may be really satisfying to be right, it can alienate people, etc. It's much more important to do things the right way, treating people well, etc. This may sound kind of morbid, but it was actually good advice. My husband was dying and an older friend told me that when he passed, clean out his closet right away and get rid of all of his things except for a few sentimental ones. She said the longer you wait and keep things, they become sentimental, and underwear isn't sentimental. That way you won't have to relive it years down the road when you finally get to it. To each his own. But I did what she said and it made the grieving process a lot easier. This was 16 years ago and that was some of the best advice I got while he was ill. I grew up being raised by a single mother, so I never had a father figure around to teach me the finer points of being a man. One day at school, I would have only been 9 or 10 at the time. A friend of mine introduced me to his older brother. The older kid would have been 12 or 13 at the oldest, but to me he seemed like an adult. He offered me a handshake. I gave him a limp-wristed dead fish shake. He took me aside and patiently explained to me how to give a real handshake, look the other guy in the eye, firm grip. Even helped me practice it a few times. That was more than 20 years ago. I cannot for the life of me remember his name, but I still remember the lessons he imparted on me that day. I remember it every time somebody extends to me their hand in friendship. Once in like 5th or 6th grade I couldn't sleep because I was worried about a school project. I went and woke up my mom and told her about it, and she asked me, "Is there anything you can do about it right now?" All the stuff for my project was at school, so I told her number. Then she said, "Then there's no need to worry about it right now." That was an eye-opener for me. I went back to bed and fell asleep no problem. Never really had any issues with anxiety since. I've always been able to set boundaries for myself and know when it's time to worry about something and when it's not. Don't take life too seriously. You'll never get out alive. Never thought a National Lampoon movie would have a serious impact on me, but like yo, I mean, it's a damn good statement, amo. Also, someone once said to me that art of living is more like wrestling than dancing, which only years later did I found out that it was a Marcus Aurelius quote, but it stuck with me hard. Most people don't seek to be happy, they seek to find a way of peace. When I walk down the street and I look at a man who looks like he's doing fine, he isn't happy, he's simply at peace. Happiness is what you feel when you get a raise or win a raffle or when you see a movie that's really good, but that feeling when you're at home just living, that not happiness that you want, it's peace. I forgot who told me this, but this philosophy helped me with a lot of shit and I am now just straight vibbing in life now. It's not so much advice as it is insight. I was preoccupied by a situation I sort of created for myself, and a good friend pointed out that the reason why I'm so invested in a self-created dilemma is that I'm just looking for a change in life and latching on to a random outside thing to sort of pull myself into a new plotline, rather than actually care that much about that whole situation. It's not that important. You're just looking for a change, and it was the truth. Plus I can see that same pattern many other times in myself and in others, whether it's from unhappiness or boredom or uncertainty. People turn to something random to then preoccupy themselves with because it's easier, not because they really care that much. He's just a man. When I was a young electrician, I had trouble showing up on time, and was very worried about an ass chewing from my foreman. One journeyman I worked with told me that while I didn't need to straighten my business out and be on time, I shouldn't fear talking to a dude just because I work for him. He's just a man. He's here to pay bills and wants to go home, drink beer, and fuck his wife just like everyone else, so don't worry about him like that. Always pack clean underwear. No joke, this comes in handy so often, especially when your Friday evening drive to unwind turns into a 3-day road trip for no other reason than you can. Sudden urge to drive 800 miles to see the Grand Canyon? No problem. You pack clean underwear, spent all night partying with a bunch of people you've never met before and wake up in a stranger's bed? No problem. You pack clean underwear, spend all night painting the town red and wind up in jail. Guess what? They give you clean underwear, and when you get out, no problem. You pack clean underwear. Nothing's worse than putting on dirty underwear from 2 years ago when you got locked up in jail for starting the courthouse on fire in a drunken stupor. Always pack clean underwear. My father recommended me a book called How to Make Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I have learned a lot about social interactions from it. I am also very asocial and introverted. I still keep this book with me after like 15 years and my father has no clue I took his advice. I have a terrible temper. When I was younger, a group of assholes at my school found it funny to purposefully trigger me, usually with success. I kind of suffered this a couple of years until my grandmother told me that they get just as annoyed if I don't react as I got from them annoying me. I took it to heart and it totally worked. I didn't react, and after a couple of months they stopped. I know that this won't work for everyone, but it totally turned my life around. You're not going to win from my husband. Sounds awful, but this was in reference to my very first 5K when I took up running. I was so nervous, and he just laughed and told me I wasn't going to win, so don't worry about it. Nobody on the course cared in the slightest how fast or slow I ran, so just run for myself and do the best I can. It really helped put in perspective that the pressure I was putting on myself was imaginary, and I've carried that with me in a lot of things since. That the only person in your life who will always be there for you no matter what is your own self. Yeah, you might have close friends or family members, but they're not with you 24/7 and they can never fully relate to you. Trust yourself and learn to love and accept yourself. Unselling things. Couldn't sell my Nikon camera. Finally asked a guy why he wouldn't buy it. It's your price. If the goods are good, and buyers are there, and they're not buying, your price is too high. Dumb simple. True, and lowered the price and sold it immediately. Money can't buy you happiness. but it can help you deal with a lot of miserable situations. Last year one found out that an old friend I had been trying to get in touch with had died of renal failure because she couldn't afford medication. This year a family member was diagnosed with breast cancer. We're not rich, but it's nice to know that advice from long ago is making it possible for us to move forward with treatment instead of having to place a value on the life of someone we love. Learn how to gauge the potential of future events in small groups, such as the workplace. Build relationships and maintain them on equal ground. If you want information, offer information. Be sincere and trustworthy. Take action based on what you learn. People will think you can see the future. Don't yuck somebody else's yum. It's 100% changed how I respond when somebody is hyping up something I think is uncool or uninteresting. Instead of stating that I find something they love entirely unlovable, I ask them why they feel the way they do, and oftentimes, it opens me to a different perspective. When I started public school in 2nd grade, my mom told me not everyone is going to like you. And that's okay. The sooner you understand that, the happier you'll be. She told me this almost every day dropping me off at school. My tiny brain couldn't fathom why anyone wouldn't like me. I was so fun. But wow, that piece of advice has saved me from becoming a people pleaser. A professor in my 2nd year of college. Up to this point I was basically a straight C student. I coasted through on innate ability and intelligence. However, that only gets you so far in college and life. After poor showing on a test I complained about some of the questions. He said, "I can't teach you anything, you have to learn it. I can help give you a framework, but you have to learn." It was eye-opening for me. It put the ball in my court. It made me responsible. It empowered me and terrified me. I have used that ever since. If I don't know something, I learn it. Always assume everyone is trying their best. Their best might not be the same as your best. And you gotta appreciate that some days your best might not be up to other people's standards of the best. The moral of this is that you should always try to think the best of people, even if they don't seem to be trying very hard. They could be having a really shit time, and they are really trying their best. Be kind. Someone on Reddit, it really stuck with me ever since I read it a few months ago, and helped me to be more kind and respectful to colleagues and others, including myself. If someone says something offensive or inappropriate to you, repeat it with the exact same words they used. For example, "Are you always this fucking stupid?" You could say, "No, I am not always this fucking stupid." This basically makes them think about what they said and they will shut up. I already did this a few times and it always works wonders. Nobody is a math person, any more than nobody is an English person. Except for those few geniuses, of course. Math is a language, and the more you speak, read, and write it, the easier it becomes. She was right. Math is hard for me, and I still spent all night rewriting notes and doing examples for my degree, but I'm convinced it's worth it. That you can be somebody's friend, but you can't be their therapist. Edit for clarification. Too many times have I used myself up trying to help people. I am not a therapist and I cannot give advice like it is my profession. I can be your friend, but I can't help you overcome your mental hurdles. Before I received this advice I would always run myself thin trying to be the rock for people, when I was falling apart at the seams myself. Give solutions, not excuses. When I was doing internship for my degree and business, I didn't know how to do something, but as expected people don't care about that. They want things done by yesterday. I always try, but this particular time I messed up and lost a shipment for $53K. I almost cried in the restroom that day. My boss helped me and made me understand what is the meaning of a good leader. All it takes is 20 seconds of courage. You don't have to be brave forever. Just 20 seconds and it could change your life. That's not an exact quote because I've never even seen this apparently subpar family movie. We bought a zoo, but damn it man, that advice is priceless. Just saying fuck it, and going up and talking to her with 20 seconds of stored up bravado, and then after those 20 seconds you already broke the ice. It's brilliant. Wasn't given to me, but I read it somewhere recently. Someone's mom was asking what spill the tea meant. When her daughter was explaining it, her mother said just be careful of where you're spilling your tea. Sometimes the stains won't come out. I think that is some of the greatest advice I've ever read. Grandfather told me to once, even the friendliest smile has the potential to stab you in the back, so watch what you say around people. Helped me a lot on college because this one tell was overly friendly and lots of kids would joke with him and poke fun at the professor. Our professor came in one day pissed and heartbroken because the tall passed it on in a much less hearted way. For example, he had a bad leg from the first Iraq war and a kid made a harmless joke about him always writing so dense on the right board and spaced on the left as well. Yeah, he can only bend that knee after the landmine. The one leg just goes along for the ride. Professors would have loved that. The top presented the joke as though he's spinning in circles because he was too stupid not to step on a bomb. 10 kids specifically were called out and had to switch to another classroom. Luckily I wasn't involved in anyway. Avoid fights, but if one has to happen, hit first, hit hard, and don't stop till it's over, and if possible use a bar stool. Basically go feral. I've been in several fights in Philly, but one dude was ridiculously aggressive over my friend getting served first at the bar instead of him. Friend was tipping $5s all night on every order. Well, he starts shit with my friend who's half his size. I step in and the dude gets right in my face and grabs me while getting into position. I launched a fist so hard his hat stayed in place and I followed through to the ground. Something went clattering and everyone was watching now as I did my best to pin him, but he bucked like a mule, so I just landed blow after blow till he stopped. Look over at the floor and the thing that went clattering was a 5-inch knife he had just pulled out. He was planning on stabbing one or both of us, and I got off with a wrist slap while he got 3 months because he had an aggravated assault record and my police record only has a $50 fine I got for stopping traffic once to carry over a turtle. Here it is. My philosophy is basically this, and this is something that I live by, and I always have, and I always will. Don't ever, for any reason, do anything to anyone for any reason, ever, no matter what, no matter where, or who you are with, or where you are going, or where you've been, ever, for any reason whatsoever. My second grade teacher had a reward system for grades. It was a candy dispensing machine that you twist and candy came out. 2 twists for an A and 1 twist for a B. I got a B and got my candy, gave it to someone else, then went to sit down and she accused me of taking an extra twist, and told me stealing was wrong. I told her I actually took one and gave it away cause I didn't like chocolate and thought M&Ms were nasty, and she told me we don't call things nasty and made me go to my desk and put my head down as a punishment. Someone's phone went off in class, so teacher demanded that person turn their phone it. No one budges. She holds us in class for a good 20 minutes into the next period antagonizing us about this phone that rung. Eventually she let us go and warned all other teachers about this phone incident. My 8th period teacher then gets involved and antagonizes us all again. Said he was gonna stand out in the hall and whoever knows anything to report to him. Some kid went out there and said it was my phone. I got yelled at, got written up for Saturday detention, and later that year found out the kid who told on me was the one whose phone rung in class. We were on a field trip to some Washington forest and the ranger started asking about products that grow in or are made from forests. 3rd grade me, who had just discovered in some Ranger Rick article that latex rubber comes from tree trunks, confidently raised my hand to share. Our rubber from trees, Now that doesn't sound right, does it? And she moved on to another. 35 years later and the salt is still there.